This is day 2 of the September 90 7-day retreat at Springwater. Has gotten cold, hasn't it? So quickly. I just remembered this morning that during the last 2 retreats, I read a lot of the questions that had been asked by people, and a lot of people welcomed that, hearing a lot of questions of others, which some said diminish the feeling of separation from each other. Now, I only make very brief notes in between the short time that someone leaves the room and the next person enters. And sometimes they are so hastily done that I can't read them and remember them later on. So I try to recall from memory what the question was and write it down, which takes time. I've taken the time this morning. I can't promise I will do that every day. So here are the questions, and which one we will work on, I haven't decided yet. Let me say, I hope that everyone here agrees to my doing this. I'm trying to keep the question in such a way that it does not point toward a specific person. Also, it never fails to happen that several people in a brief interval of time have the same question. So sometimes these questions are condensed into one, so your original question may not quite sound the way you put it. Please don't feel that you have not been heard or understood. Due to the way the question is formulated, you may feel that way anyways. We can work on that alone or together. I have recently noticed some personality changes in myself. I speak out more, say more what I feel directly, do less pussyfooting around, have more energy to assert myself. Then when I think about it, I feel guilty of this being all just more ego, and also of not being feminine. You talk about there being no method in this work, no techniques, but isn't this whole retreat with its schedules, its talks and meetings, sitting periods, isn't all of that a method? Why do we come here, if not as a method to get someplace or get something? You talk a lot about getting hurt. I feel I get very angry, not hurt but angry, when someone treats me in a way I don't want to be treated, and the way I usually am not treated. Why do I get so very angry? And is all of that old stored up anger from the past, which was usually suppressed? Can all of this old suppressed energy from the past ever be totally dissolved? I feel a tremendous rage within myself. I want to really understand it and allow it to be there and be seen, rather than keep it shoved down, which I think has made me ill. I want to feel the energy of this anger and allow it to move. I have feelings inside me which cause me physical discomfort. I don't quite know what these feelings are because they are hidden, concealed from myself and, of course, from others. I've always felt that I have to conceal these feelings, maybe for fear of punishment, and also for fear I will poison others with these feelings if I let them come out in the open. They could be dangerous to myself and to others. I don't feel that I'm afraid to look at them because I have a certain image of myself. It is this other, this fear of what they will do to myself and others. How can one be with intense pain in the neck and shoulders and back during sitting? You speak so much about the fact that we are all so much alike, but I find this the hardest thing to see. What I see is all the differences in myself and others. It's so hard to see that our own hurt may be the same hurt as that of someone else. How am I to be with intense feelings of panic, which make me want to run away and run away all the time? When I feel this panic, I want to do something for someone else and make them smile at me, rather than facing this feeling of panic. You often say that fear and wanting always go together. Is that really so? As long as I can remember, I have wanted to get attention from others. In my earlier years, mostly negative attention, because that was all that was available. Maybe we can start with this difficulty of seeing that we're so much alike. With our habitual seeing differences in others and ourselves, which of course hides, conceals the sameness. Why are we the way we are right now? Why are we this kind of personality that we think we know something about, which we call me? We all, or most of us, do that, don't we? We feel we have a personality which is me. That's already something we share. My personality. How did that come about? How did we come to react, to act, to respond, to feel, to talk, to joke or pout or sing or hurt the way we do? Isn't it because of the totality of influences that shaped us, particularly in our early life, where learning is the intensest and speediest? So brain experts tell us, a child at 2 years there's a peak of some kind of brain functions that makes learning and imitation possible. We had different influences, whether we were a firstborn, a secondborn, or a thirdborn, or an eighthborn. The ways and moods, likes and dislikes of our parents. We can't begin to list it all the influences that shaped this personality. To assert oneself or to be submissive. To be feminine, meaning to be submissive, to yield, not to assert oneself. With certain parents, other parents may raise a daughter to be assertive. With a different ideal of femininity. We all are the result of all the influences that have affected us, aren't we? We're all alike in that. We are the result of that. The influences themselves may have been different in each individual life, not just may have. They have been, or due to some physiological or inherited characteristics, may have been a different perception, different sensitivity. And yet the effect of the people around us, the environment, rich or poor, hot or cold, the food we ate, has had an effect which sits here right now. And if each one of us in this room had been born into and raised in a different family, if we all switched and mixed it all up, we wouldn't be the way we're now. We would be different due to those influences in the different home, in the different environment, culture, social class. Do you see the sameness in this difference? But there's more to it, because all of us, at one time or another, are afraid, maybe most of the time. Afraid of what? Afraid of being rejected, not being loved. It's true for all of us, isn't it? Afraid of failing, afraid of not being as good as others, afraid of what will happen to us according to what we imagine, what this brain is capable of imagining that may happen in the future. This brain, which is in all of us, is capable of imagining future specters that can arouse what we call fear throughout this organism. Having an accident, having a war, nuclear attack, poisoning of the environment, losing someone one is so attached to, aging, getting sick, dying of painful sickness. Isn't that shared by all of us because of the ability to imagine all of that? To know about it from others, from what one has read or heard. Don't we all get hurt? Hurt when we're not treated as we would like to be treated. I'm not talking about physical hurt right now, but being spoken to harshly, unfairly, inconsiderately. It's not just psychological hurt, it also aches and ails in this whole body. Why do we think that we're different from each other in that? Just because at a moment that my whole universe is filled with my hurt, I can't imagine anyone else to hurt. Which is another capacity of this brain to be so all-consuming in its, not just the brain, but this whole body, all-consuming in feeling something and nurturing that feeling through verbalization, remembrance. Every cell and fiber of the body vibrating with anger or hurt, so that there is no space to think of or see someone else. That may account for feeling only I hurt. No one else can hurt as much as I do. And yet if the hurt abates, the fibers and cells are a little bit released from this activity, then maybe there is the capacity to also see and feel someone else's hurt. Which isn't different from one's own. Maybe the content is different, the occasion varies, but we get hurt when we're not treated the way we want to be treated, not spoken to the way we want to be spoken to. When something in us is violated or feels violated, some inner space. All human beings want to be loved, want to be approved of, want to get attention. Like this one person said, I think as far back as I remember, I've always wanted attention from others. As a child in school, it was usually negative attention. I was acting up probably in a terrific way, just to get this attention, by whatever means. Why do we want to get attention from others? I'm not saying we shouldn't, or we should, but why? Can one wonder about that deeply? Not just saying, well, everybody does. It's nice. Gives me energies. But pursue it deeply. This tremendous longing and craving for the attention of others, maybe certain others, not other certain others. One just as soon would be ignored by certain others, but get lots of attention from people we want to be looked at, by whom we want to be looked at, commended, recognized, approved of, loved, appreciated, admired. What is it in us that craves that? Can one wonder about this and watch it? Just as yesterday we very carefully talked about this hurt. Why do we get hurt? And someone then says, I don't get hurt, I get angry. Why do we get angry? And that is another thing we share as human beings, getting angry when our ways are crossed, when our wish, our expectation is not fulfilled, is cut short, foiled. When someone we expect something to do for us does the exact opposite, doesn't go along with it. And the whole system was full of expectation. And then the non-fulfillment of the expectation, the person turning away, turning the other way, turning towards someone else. An immense anger coming up. A mixture. Some people may call it hurt, anger. Is there a difference between hurt and anger, rage? These are different words. Maybe they're somewhat different feelings, but it's all, in every case, an intense arousal of energy. An energy to lash out, verbally or physically, to get release, because expectation, the crossing of the expectation, and then the energy of lashing out. All of this is interconnected, physiologically and psychologically. Actually, animals do they get angry, or do they exhibit certain aggressive energies when their territory is invaded? A buck going to fight when the doe is being led away by another buck or approached. These patterns are there in the animals. What isn't there, to the degree, at least to the highly developed degree as it is in human beings, is to think about all of this and make stories out of it. Once two bucks have fought it out, it's finished. One goes off, and usually has not been bloody. Sometimes it is. Very rarely is a life lost over it. But for us, an incident of anger can fester on and on and on and on for years, for decades, because thought keeps it alive. Thinking about what happened to me, what he or she did to me. The nerve of it, the unfairness of it, the lovelessness of it, and so forth. As a little child, when we don't get what we want, and wanting is almost endless already in little children. Wanting this, wanting that, always wanting something. Not always, sometimes there's great contentment in just observing, being with something, absorbed in watching, finding out about something. But there's a lot of wanting attention, wanting this toy or whatever, and wanting to stay one place when the parents want to go someplace else in the store, and the child beginning to stamp and scream. We call a tantrum. Trying to, I don't know what it's trying to do, it's just this explosion of contrary impulses, wanting something, and the foiling of that, the inhibition or frustration of that. Feeling the wanting of the parents, dominating one's own wanting, and the outbreak of a tantrum. Releasing it all in all kinds of physicality. Is that still in us? Today, when we don't get what we feel we deserve or should have or have expected so longingly, arduously. One person asking, this anger of all my life, I feel as a tremendous pool of anger, which was suppressed, as most parents make their children suppress their anger. It's too uncomfortable to live with. One has suppressed one's own in one's time. Learn not to live with it, learn to feel ashamed of it or feel that it is dangerous, and this is now passed on automatically to the child, to one's child, out of these aroused fears of this emotion which was so fearful to one's own parents or grandparents. So there is this suppressed pool of anger. One feels, one puts it that way. One feels there is that whether there is really a suppressed pool of anger someplace, who knows what there is. And yet the feeling is that with this anger right now, all the angers of the past are resonating violently. The anger of not getting what one wants and not having gotten what one wanted, due to somebody else's power to interfere with that. The rage being energy directed maybe toward getting what one needs, fighting that other person off, so one keeps what one feels as one's own, space or mate or object, whatever. But we have no way as children to fight with an adult, with a parent. There's no equality there. So the anger often becomes controlled and suppressed. So the question, how can I be with this anger that manifests now? I want to allow it to be there. I don't want to suppress it anymore. It's made me ill. And yet I also want to be done with it. Someone else says, it's two human beings. One wants it to move with it. The other wants to be done with it. Neither one said, I want to give it my full expression. Neither one said that. Maybe that feeling wasn't there at the time. Or maybe there is some feeling that just expressing anger doesn't get us really acquainted with it. Gets us acquainted with a tremendous feeling of release that happens when anger is expressed. Also gets us acquainted with the consequences on others of anger we have expressed, the hurt we've caused, or the anger in others, and the breaking up of a relationship. And very often, having expressed anger once, it beckons to do it again because it feels so good to have that power that others have had over us when we were little, now to be in possession of this power, to terrorize others with our anger. And yet, the consequences once the heat cools down. So here we're asking, is it at all possible to be with this movement of energy, of rising, of energy, rage, anger is the name for it, to be with that without giving it expression, without suppressing it or controlling it? Even wondering if it can ever end, the whole of it. All the reserves from all the past, ending. And is the next question, well then, how do I look at this anger? What is the method? What is the way? There are ways of controlling, right? There are methods for it. Methods for suppressing, methods for expressing. But is there a method for there just being that? Empty-handedly, as we said yesterday, not knowing what to do about it. And yet, something is moving intensely with a great urgency, power. Can that be felt, listened to, seen, contacted? Without method, just being there being attention, awareness, not the words, not the word, not the concept, just no sense of separation, no wanting of a specific outcome of this. Who knows whether all the anger of all the past will dissolve? But it's in this anger right now, isn't it? It's all there. It manifests, all the angers of the past manifest right now. At this moment of not getting what I want, not being treated the way I'm used to. What am I that gets so angry? What is this I? The wanting, the expecting. The protecting. Can all of us, all of that be there, looked at, without making a story out of any of it? Because this is something very noticeable if one begins to watch inwardly. The particular occasion is one thing. Expecting something, not getting what one expected. And that brings this energy. But what happens immediately is storylines, headlines, punchlines about what happened to me and what he is like and what he always does, she always does to me. And we get more and more excited over the story that the brain creates about this incident, which connects up with all the past stories. I always have to suffer this at the hands of others. Nobody ever pays attention to me. To others, yes, but not to me. To listen to that too. And how the thoughts about it, the scenarios created in the mind, keep adding fuel to this incident, which by now may have already extinguished. Like two dogs fighting or two bucks fighting, and then it's over. It may already have been gone if thought didn't keep it alive, and not only keep it alive, but augment it tremendously. Getting friends in on it, getting them all excited about it. Relishing that they feel just as angry as I do, that gives justification to my being angry. And justification to be angry at this person. We share this enemy now. Is this body-mind capable of observing all of that, of being in the presence of all of that, in a simple way, learning about it? Learning about it intelligently, not out of prejudice or position, but out of what is actually presenting itself in this rather mechanical way of operating of the thoughts, the glands, the muscles, the organs, and more thoughts and more turmoil inside. Maybe it's not possible at the moment of explosion to watch. I don't know. Maybe it is. But if there's attention already when a critical moment approaches, maybe there will not be an explosion, because attention is there to watch. When there's no attention, the explosion occurs. But later on, can one look at the whole thing as memory provides it still very vividly? And the story making is still going on, if not looked at and understood. It is possible to do that. It's not impossible at all. It's possible to look at that in great depth. And by great depth we mean the depth of no separation, no me suffering this or doing this, but just the simplicity of listening and feeling, contacting. That sounds like two, but contact is the touch with it, the direct touch with it. In stillness, in a space of stillness, the stillness of listening to anger and rage arising and the verbiage about it, and not completely lose touch with the space of still, quiet listening. Listening which has no position, no point of view. Nothing to defend, nothing to protect, just to shed light on what is. The amazing thing is that when the story of myself and others ends in this quiet listening, there's no story making going on, no investment in it, just listening to what is still, may still be reverberating in the body from past story, past incident. When that story ends, maybe just for a moment at a time, all the past anger ends with it. which is not suppression or control. It has to do with this vastness of space of listening without position, without wanting to prove something or get someplace, or defend something or justify something, or accuse oneself or others. All of that is past story or present story. So, the question, how can I live with a state of utter panic, one person asks, which occurs so often in my life, and I run away from it consistently. I don't want to face it. I'd rather do something for somebody and get a smile. Nothing wrong doing something for someone and getting a smile. But this person who asked this felt this was not enough. There has to be some being with this. And yet how do I do it? It's the same question. Actually, what I mentioned to this person, I may have mentioned it in a talk before, but I'll talk about it now. It's a nice story. It's many years ago, one of the first counseling encounters I had at the place where I was asked to counsel. Someone came to me, an ashen drawn face, eye rings, and said, "There is a ghost in my apartment." At first, this ghost stayed put in a certain place. I could live in the other place, I could get my sleep, but of recent, this ghost is all over the place. I have to keep lights on and I can't sleep. What can I do? And the first question was, have you ever met this ghost? Face to face, meet the ghost. And just looked horrified. And I said, why not get some real goodies, like coffee cake with something red in the middle, and a pot of coffee or tea, whatever you like best, and maybe the ghost will like it too. And the next time, this, whatever he or she is, appears or is heard, you invite the ghost to come and have coffee with you, to meet each other. It's no life to run away from each other. It's killing you, I can see it. And she laughed a little bit. And I didn't hear from her in years. She never came back for years. It's a true story. I'm not making it up. But since then, she's gone to school, got a degree, is a teacher. She's doing very well. And she occasionally comes to retreat, and we never have talked about the ghost again. I don't know what happened. Maybe if we really meet panic, fear, pain, anxiety, anger, meet it, and meeting means no gap, no exit for escape. Just what's there, it will turn out not to be what we thought it was. It won't turn out to be what we thought it was. I can say that for sure. It's the end of separation, that's what it is. You could say, but well, I mentioned to you, I keep this all concealed even to myself. Well, then climb into the concealment tent where no one can see it. Just this thing. It doesn't have to be publicized. No one has to be hurt by it or poisoned by it. Just to be with this thing concealed. It doesn't have to be in the open. Do you know what I mean? Maybe you won't even find anything. Who knows? If you listen quietly, look quietly, inwardly, not being deterred or scared off by whatever is there. It's met, and then what is it? It's gone. One thing is gone after another. And yet there's the cool breeze, the light in the windows, people sitting around, the heart is beating, regularly or irregularly. There's breathing. And the song of the crickets. This blood is circulating. What is missing? We will end here for today.